Shocking moment. Manager denies black woman service at 3 p.m. not knowing she's the owner's wife. The air crackled with tension as the clock struck 3. In the small bustling cafe where folks usually chatted and laughed over steaming lattes, a hush fell over the crowd. Eyes darted, whispers filled the room. At the center of it all stood Mia, her hands trembling at her sides, the warmth of her carefully crafted smile fading into disbelief. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice low yet firm, filled with a weight that demanded respect. But the manager, a cold-eyed man named Greg, stood his ground, arms crossed defiantly. Mia, a woman of striking beauty with an air of undeniable grace, felt every gaze burning into her. She was not just a customer, she was the owner's wife, a fact no one in the cafe understood yet. The sunlight streaming through the window caught the shimmer of her engagement ring. But her heart raced as anger bubbled within her. How could this be happening? Did he really not recognize the woman standing before him? Just moments ago, laughter had filled the air. But now there was a sharp silence that sliced through the tension. An uneasy murmur traveled through the patrons. Some sipped their drinks nervously, while others exchanged glances, unsure of what to do. A woman near the cash register, clearly uncomfortable, whispered, "He can't treat her like that," while a young man furrowed his brow in disbelief, shaking his head as Mia stood there, cheeks flushed with a mix of anger and confusion. She could feel eyes on her, many filled with pity, others tinged with exhilaration, as if this confrontation was an entertainment spectacle. Was this really happening? Was she in a twisted episode of reality TV? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia took a deep breath, her emotions swirling inside her like a storm. Determined, she stepped closer to Greg. "You have no idea who I am, do you?" she challenged, voice steady but laced with underlying fury. The cafe seemed to hold its breath, the tension palpable. Greg glanced at her, confusion mingling with bravado. "I don't care who you are. Rules are rules." A ripple of gasps echoed around the room as Mia felt a prickle of disbelief dance down her spine. Everyone was watching. No one dared to break the silence. What would she do next? Would the truth come crashing down like a thunderstorm, exposing each hidden lie? The room felt electric, an intimate orchestra of anticipation, all waiting for that single note to shatter the stillness. And in her mind, a burning question loomed: would she reclaim her dignity, or would she be silenced forever? The silence was thick, slicing through the air like a knife. Mia's chest tightened, and for a moment, the weight of her reality crashed down on her. Every head in the cafe seemed poised to lean in, waiting for her next move. Was this really how it would end? With her dignity in tatters, all because of one man's arrogance? "Mia," a voice broke through the charged atmosphere. It was Marcus, her husband, the owner of the cafe, bursting through the door with an air of authority that filled the room. He was a tall man, his presence instantly commanding attention. The warm light softened his sharp features, but the tension surrounding Mia sparked an urgency in his voice. "What's going on?" Greg's bravado faltered for the briefest moment, the reality of the situation crashing down on him. Mia turned to her husband, the dread in her heart mingling with relief at his arrival. "This man," she paused, taking a deep breath to steady her voice, "he's refusing to serve me." Marcus's brows furrowed. He stepped closer, face flushed as anger coiled tightly in his gut. "What do you mean, refusing to serve her?" "It doesn't matter who she is," Greg stammered, his bravado quickly sinking beneath the surface. "Rules are rules, she needs to follow them just like everyone else." Mia felt something snap inside her. The crowd shifted, their emotions blending support, fear, disbelief. She could see people exchanging hurried glances, some shaking their heads as if they couldn't fathom what was happening. "Rules?" Marcus replied, voice rising. "You're treating my wife like she's less than human." In that moment, with each word, the room trembled with the weight of his resentment. But Greg, ever defiant, straightened his posture. "I don't know who she is, and I'm not going to serve her just because she's married to you." Gasps and murmurs erupted through the packed cafe, morphing into an uncomfortable buzz. The tension was electric, thick enough to taste. Silent supporters swelled around him. People Mia had once seen as strangers were now allies. Their eyes hardened with the indignity of the moment. "Is this really how you want to run this place?" she challenged, her voice steady yet fierce. "Treating people based on misconceptions instead of who they truly are?" Time seemed to stretch out. Marcus now looked from his wife to the manager, weighing the situation. Mia's heart raced on the cusp of revelation. Would this fight reveal more than just her dignity? Would it unveil shadows of racism buried deep within the cafe's walls? Just then the door swung open again. A figure appeared, stunningly out of context against the unfolding drama. A newspaper reporter, holding a camera. "What is happening here?" he asked, eyes flashing with curiosity and purpose. The weight of the world shifted, now teetering on the edge of confrontation. "Don't make this worse," Greg warned under his breath, taking a small step back. But it was too late. A new audience began to gather at the door, curiosity etched on their faces. Mia could feel the crowd's energy shift, morphing into a collective force. She glanced at her husband, and in that look, they both knew this was a moment that would change everything. Would this confrontation spark a fire of change in the small town? Or would it die down, leaving them once again trapped in the shadows of prejudice? As whispers turned to shouts, Mia's pulse raced with anticipation. She was no longer just fighting for her dignity, she was fighting for everyone who ever faced the same unjust treatment. The tension escalated, and she knew they were on the brink of something monumental. But amid the chaos, a chilling realization sank in. What if uncovering the truth opened up wounds that might never heal? What would it take for the truth to set them free? And as the camera's flash lit up the room, capturing every face in stark relief, Mia braced herself. A storm was brewing, and this was only the beginning. The flash lit up Mia's world, freezing the moment in a blinding blaze. She squinted against the brightness, catching glimpses of stunned faces in the glare, the shocked parishioners of their small town, the loyal patrons who often sought refuge in this cozy cafe, now transformed into witnesses. "Do you want to tell your side, or should I do it for you?" The reporter's voice sliced through the tension, and Mia felt a new adrenaline rush through her veins. The stakes were higher than ever, and there was no turning back now. Greg stumbled, his bravado faltering under the spotlight. "This is about rules," he barked, but his voice lacked conviction, echoing against the growing discontent of the crowd. "Is that what this is about?" Marcus stepped closer, his eyes locked onto Greg's. "You want to hide behind rules while making my wife a scapegoat? You've crossed a line that should never have been drawn." Mia felt warmth pool in her chest at Marcus's words, but a wave of dread washed over her too. What if this moment turned into a bigger storm than they could handle? She looked around the cafe, people's faces reflecting a spectrum of emotions: anger, empathy, fear. Some nodded, others looked away, uncertain, caught in the crossfire of conflict. "Let us hear from Mia. What does she have to say?" The reporter's camera swung toward her, capturing the vulnerability etched across her features. Suddenly the realization hit her. This was more than a personal battle. This was a moment that could energize a movement. She swallowed hard, feeling the lump in her throat. "I'm here today not just for myself. I'm here for everyone who has been treated like they don't matter," she said, her voice gaining strength. "This place, this cafe, should be a home for everyone. But if we treat people based on prejudices, we betray what we stand for." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, reverberating off the walls, an undercurrent of growing support building up against Greg's shaky foundation. It was invigorating, but the pit in Mia's stomach reminded her of the risks. "Wow, a true martyr," Greg scoffed, trying to regain his footing, but the contempt in his eyes was no match for the rising tide of support behind Mia. He was losing control, his authority fading with every passing second. The reporter stepped forward, and in a bold move asked the question that hung heavy in the air. "Do you believe Greg is being prejudiced against you?" A hush fell over the cafe. It was as if the whole room paused, collectively holding its breath. Mia's heart raced. She hesitated, weighing the ramifications of her words. But there was no going back now. "Yes," she said, her voice unwavering. "I believe his actions come from a misguided view of who I am. And it's time we challenged that." Fury ignited in Greg's eyes. You've got it all wrong. You don't know what we're up against. Mia squared her shoulders, feeling emboldened. No, Greg. You don't know what it means to have someone judge you without even knowing your story. Enough. Greg exploded. If you want to make this a spectacle, then do it on your own time. Maybe we should make it public. Someone from the back shouted, igniting a wave of murmurs and cheers. The passion in the room grew palpable and emotions surged. A confrontation brewed, taking on a life of its own. Outside, dark clouds gathered. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, a harbinger of the storm to come. Mia felt that familiar rush of energy as the crowd rallied behind her. She locked eyes with Marcus, who nodded ever so slightly. They were in this together now. But as the deputies arrived outside, uniformed shadows glaring through the glass window, a different kind of fear gripped her heart. Would this escalation lead to more chaos and pain? What would it mean if law enforcement got involved? The moment was shifting again, riding the knife edge of possibility. Was she ready for what lay ahead? Would the truth become a weapon or a shield? The thunder cracked again, louder this time, matching the tumult in her heart. She held her breath, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. And the question lingered in the air like tension before a storm. Was the truth worth the fight? Mia's heart thundered in her chest as the weight of the moment pressed down on her. Greg's face was a mask of rage, while the crowd swelled with energy she had never expected to ignite. But it was too late to wonder about the consequences now. The storm had begun to gather, and she was its reluctant center. Everyone listen. Faye, a longtime patron, stepped boldly to the front, her voice rising above the murmurs. This is about more than just Mia. It's about all of us. We can't let someone like Greg tear us apart. Her words sparked a chorus of agreement, and the intensity in the room shifted once again. Faces that had once seemed neutral were now animated, eyes flashing with fervor. This collective spirit sent chills down Mia's spine, both thrilling and terrifying. But then came the sound of heavy footsteps. 3 deputies entered the cafe, their presence heavy with authority. The crowd's cheers turned to anxious whispers, confusion painting the faces around her. Mia felt her breath hitch, anxiety clawing at her throat. What were they doing here? Everyone settle down. One of the deputies barked. We're here to ensure safety. What's going on? Greg seized the opportunity to redirect the narrative. This woman is causing a scene, he said, pointing an accusatory finger at Mia. She's instigating people to break the law. Gasps echoed through the cafe. Mia's stomach churned, anger bubbling up. I'm not breaking any law, Greg. I'm fighting for our rights. The deputy narrowed his eyes, assessing the growing tension. Let us not escalate this, he warned. But the warning felt directed more at the crowd than at Mia. Marcus stepped forward. This is about injustice, sir. It's about prejudice that's been allowed to fester right here in our community. Mia could hardly believe the surge of support, but the fear of what it could mean if things went too far tightened her chest almost painfully. The deputies exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Step back, ma'am, one of them said sharply to Mia. Let us keep things civil. Civil? She shot back, incredulous. So standing up against unfairness needs to be civil? What about the civil right to fair treatment? The weight of her words settled over the room, like the looming clouds outside, thick with impending rain. Mia, please, Marcus urged, his brow furrowed with concern. Let us just maybe talk this out? But something in Mia snapped then. Talk? Talk doesn't change ignorance, Marcus. We are done talking. Her voice rose like a crescendo, cutting through the brooding atmosphere in a way that felt both liberating and terrifying. The crowd erupted again, voices combining in a fevered pitch, chanting justice. Justice! And just like that, the cafe became a battleground not of fists or violence, but of words and wills. Listen up. One of the deputies shouted, trying to regain control, but the tide was too strong. This is your final warning. But Mia was lost in the moment, swept up in the collective spirit of rebellion. She glanced over at Greg, whose desperation was becoming clearer. He couldn't grasp the tempest he had unleashed, and Mia realized, with a mix of dread and exhilaration, they were on the brink of something monumental. Just then, a loud bang echoed outside. A flash illuminating the room through the windows, lightning split the sky. The sound sent gasps rippling through the cafe, a shockwave of energy swirling in the air. The deputies shifted, their hands instinctively resting on their holsters. Everything felt electric, charged, hanging in a precarious balance. A single question clawed at Mia's mind. What next? The thunder rumbled again, a deep ominous growl that seemed to echo her own thoughts. She held her breath, waiting for the storm both outside and within to break. Would their fight endure even the wrath of the elements? Would truth prevail, or would they all be swept away in the chaos? The air crackled with tension as the thunder boomed again, shaking the walls of the cafe. Mia felt her heart racing, each beat faster than the one before. She was standing on the edge of something colossal, and the storm outside mirrored the whirlwind inside her. The crowd surged, a living entity of anger and determination. They were ready, but was she? The deputies moved closer, their stance growing rigid as they scanned the faces in the room. Everyone backed down. One shouted, his voice heavy with authority. Yet the crowd was too ignited, too alive to heed his command. They were no longer just patrons, they had become warriors for a cause. Mia, stand down. Marcus' voice cut through the din, strained with worry. He stepped forward but was met with a chorus of shouts urging him to rally behind her. We need to stay calm. He insisted, but calm had flown out the window as soon as the first clap of thunder rolled in. We've been calm long enough, Marcus. Mia snapped, her eyes blazing with defiance. This is our chance. We can't back down now, not again. The deputies moved again, more forcefully this time. This isn't a game. You're all risking arrest. The warning barely registered with the crowd, lost in the fire of their combined voices. Suddenly the front door swung open, allowing a gust of wind to rush in, swirling papers and flyers about. Mia caught sight of a news correspondent standing outside, camera rolling, capturing the chaos, the fight for justice, the clash of authority. A flicker of hope ignited in her. This could be the publicity they needed to amplify their voices beyond these walls. Mia, Faye called, breaking through the roar. She stood with a handful of disgruntled patrons behind her, visibly agitated by the deputy's presence. You have to take control. This is your moment. Mia felt the weight of Faye's encouragement. She took a deep breath, channeling all the fear and anger into strength. You, she shouted, pointing at Greg. You thought you could silence me? Look around. We're not afraid. We won. TB pushed back. Shut her down. Greg barked, desperation creeping onto his face. They're going to get us arrested. It's a riot. But instead of retreating, the crowd responded with chants of Mia. 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 She felt their energy pumping through her veins, their belief feeding her resolve. It was intoxicating, terrifying. The deputies stepped closer, one fanning out towards Mia while another spoke into his radio. We need backup. This could escalate quickly. His eyes darted among the faces, searching for the source of the upheaval. Then lightning speared across the sky again, and the cafe grew eerily silent for a heartbeat, everyone holding their breath. It wasn't just the thunder rumbling anymore. It was the sound of destiny cracking open. Mia leaned into the silence, fully aware that everything hinged on this moment. Do you know what this storm represents? She finally said, her voice steady. It's a fight for justice. For our rights. For the very air we breathe. We can no longer sit back and watch as others try to silence us. Enough of this. One of the deputies yelled, voice echoing against the tiled walls. But Mia could hear it, a whisper of fear creeping into their commands. They were losing control, and the explosion felt imminent as the storm raged outside. She leaned in closer, urgency in her voice. Join me. Don't let them take our truth away. Just as the crowd erupted into a rallying cry, something unexpected happened. A figure slipped through the crowd, blending into the chaos. It was a man wearing a suit, holding a file that looked all too familiar. Mia's heart dropped. What was in that file? What truth lay waiting to be uncovered? And then, just like that, the air shifted once more, tension tightening in the room as eyes turned toward the newcomer. What had he come to reveal? The crowd held its breath as the man in the suit stepped forward. He looked lost in the storm swirling around him, but his gaze was unwavering. The file in his hand was worn, its edges frayed, suggesting it had been in use for far too long. Mia, he called, his voice piercing through the chant still ringing in the cafe. You need to see this. A hush fell over the crowd as they turned their eyes toward him, drawn in by the urgency in his tone. Mia's heart raced faster. A twisting knot of anticipation and dread. What could he possibly have to say that would matter now? Who are you? Greg barked, stepping forward defensively, his face taut. Ignoring Greg, the man continued, I'm sorry for barging in like this, but this is critical. You all deserve to know the truth. Stop wasting time. What's in that file? Mia demanded, inching closer, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on her, searching for answers, hoping for justice. The man hesitated, glancing back at the deputies who were still imposing, yet visibly uneasy. It's about your case, Mia. What they don't want you to find out. Before he could finish, lightning streaked outside, illuminating his features for just a heartbeat. Mia caught a glimpse of determination etched across his face. This wasn't just a case of injustice. This was a conspiracy brewing beneath the surface. Tell us, shouted someone from deep in the crowd, the tension vibrating through their collective voices. I have documents proving that the management was bribed to suppress your voice on several occasions, he announced, his voice steadier now. And they've been manipulating information to turn people against you. Gasps erupted, disbelief mingling with fury. Mia felt a heat rising in her chest, a mix of anger and renewed hope. This was what she'd been fighting for. The moment of revelation that could change everything. Bribed? By who? Mia pressed, stepping closer. The file seemed to pulse with significance, like a ticking bomb waiting to expose the truth. The owners. They wanted you to fail because you're a threat to their control, he replied. His eyes now meeting hers with an intensity that flared her spirit even more. Marcus, still hovering nearby, shot a frightened look at Mia. What if they know you have this? What will they do? The room trembled, not just from the thunder outside, but with the weight of the implications. This was no longer just about bravery, it was also about vulnerability. The storm of voices, the cries for truth, it could all come crashing down if they made one wrong move. Mia! Faye shouted, cutting through the hushed murmurs. We can't let them intimidate us. We've come too far to back down now. Mia took a deep breath, steadying herself. No more silence, she proclaimed, her fierce resolve sending ripples of energy through those gathered. If they think they can push us down, they're wrong. We've got to expose them. Just then the doors flung open again, revealing a sight that sent shivers down everyone's spines. More deputies stormed in, their expressions hardened and ready for confrontation. Step aside, shouted the lead officer, brandishing an order like a weapon. This is no place for you. The crowd exploded. Heat radiated off them in waves, their chants turning into a wild, defiant symphony. But Mia felt that same knot of fear tugging at her heart. What would happen next? Would the truth empower them or tear them apart? The line between justice and chaos blurred dangerously. Panic rippling through her body, she glanced at the man in the suit, his hands gripping the file tightly. What more lay inside those pages? And in the face of what was to come, could they withstand the storm that was brewing not just outside, but within their hearts as well? The gust of wind rushed past as the deputies surged forward, muscles taut and faces set like stone. Mia's heart thumped wildly against her ribs as she fought to keep her ground. She felt Faye at her side, a solid presence in the chaos, but all around, the crowd was quaking with emotion. Back away, the lead officer barked, his eyes scanning the sea of defiance. Mia could see the flicker of uncertainty in his gaze as he shifted, glancing at the man in the suit who remained unyielding. Mia knew time was ticking. We can't let this happen, she shouted, hoping her voice would cut through the tension. This is our life. Our story. The man in the suit stepped forward again, lifting the file higher, rallying the crowd's energy. They've silenced you long enough. You deserve the truth. His voice rang clear and powerful, igniting a fire of determination. Suddenly, a sharp crack of thunder rattled the windows, echoing the turmoil inside. One of the deputies, unnerved, glanced at his partner, hesitating for just a moment. That flicker of doubt was all Mia needed. Together, she yelled, her voice rising above the tumult of shouts and protests. We stand together. They can't stop all of us. The crowd swelled with renewed fervor, bobbing like a tide of stormy waves. Greg, who had been cautious moments before, now joined the chorus. Let us show them we won. Back down. But just as the unified force surged, the lead officer responded sharply, raising a hand to silence them. This is your only warning. Disperse or face arrest. Mia squeezed Faye's hand and they exchanged a glance filled with shared resolve. She stepped forward, her heart pounding. You're threatened by the truth. This isn't just about me, it's about every single one of us. That file contains proof of their corruption. And then in a moment that felt like it was stretching on forever, a few brave souls began to chant truth. Justice. Truth. Justice. It rolled over the cafe like the thunder outside, a powerful cavitation that shook the air. The deputies shifted, visibly uncomfortable with the rising swell of resistance. Yet one in the back called out, "You down there, stop. This is your last chance." But Mia pressed on. "You can't intimidate us anymore. We're no longer afraid." Suddenly, the man in the suit stumbled forward, his gaze locked onto Mia. "They don't know yet. But if we push this, we can bring them down. All of them." "What do you mean they don't know yet?" She yelled, urgency thick in her voice. Before he could answer, a loud crack splintered through the air, and the room pierced with silence. The tension was so thick it felt like they were all holding their breath, waiting for the weight of what was to come. The deputies had reached for their constraint devices, shiny and foreboding in the sudden silence. Mia felt a bead of sweat roll down her spine. "What do we do now?" she whispered, her heart clenching in fear. The man's expression darkened. "If they open that file, everything changes. There's more in that file. I haven't even mentioned." Light flickered under the storm clouds outside, casting eerie shadows across the room as if the world itself was coming undone. A deafening roar of thunder followed, breaking the deafening silence. Would it push them to act, or would it quell their courage? The stakes had never been higher, and just as they were about to launch into action, the door swung open again. This time a familiar face stepped in, a face Mia recognized all too well. Could this be the ally she desperately needed? Or were they walking into a trap? Mia's breath caught in her throat. Who was it, and what secrets would they bring along? What lay ahead in this storm? The figure moved into the room, rain-soaked and breathless. Mia squinted through the chaos, her heart racing as she recognized Melissa, the cafe's quiet manager. Mia's mind raced with possibilities. Why was she here? Did she know what was happening? Melissa. Mia strained to call over the din, but it felt like trying to shout over a tidal wave, of futility that only heightened her anxiety. Melissa's eyes darted around, appraising the tension in the air. The deputies tightened the grips on their devices, the metallic glint glimmering ominously under the cafe lights. Mia's gut sank. Could her presence help, or would it only escalate matters further? "Everyone listen," Melissa shouted, her hands raised in an attempt to calm the crowd. "You have to back away from this confrontation now. Please. It's not safe." Mia could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Melissa, no. This is our chance." But silence hung between them for an instant, thick and oppressive. The air crackled as if it were charged with electricity, the murmurs of the crowd a pulsating heartbeat in the backdrop. "Do you really think they care about your truth?" Melissa pressed, eyes wide with urgency. "They've already made up their minds. Of course they care." Mia shot back, her voice raw, the truth of the situation sinking deeper into her. "They may not want to, but we can show them how wrong they are." Melissa hesitated, eyes flicking to the deputies, and Mia felt despair creep in, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. "Mia, you don't understand. If they seize control here, there's no coming back from it. You're standing on a volcano ready to erupt." The lead officer raised his voice over the collective unrest. "That's it. You've been warned." He stepped forward menacingly. "You have exactly 10 seconds to disperse, or we will take action." Mia felt a cold sweat form beneath her clothes. The moment felt fragile, poised to shatter into chaos. The man in the suit remained steadfast, eyes fixed on Mia, as if searching for an answer in her expression. "Sometimes shadows hold more power than the light," he whispered with urgency. "You need to decide whose side you're on. We can't let them take us down like this." Mia shouted again, louder this time, desperation bubbling over. "Fight for your rights. Fight for the truth." The crowd roared, a collective surge of strength and solidarity bursting forth. It was intoxicating, but Mia couldn't shake the fear that lingered. Her breath hitched, and the deafening storm outside mirrored the turmoil within. But then it happened. There in the sidelines a massive figure appeared, moving stealthily through the crowd. It was Greg, and he didn't come alone. He marched forward, flanked by customers and supporters, faces illuminated with determination. Mia's heart swelled with a mix of relief and dread. But before she could call out to him, another flash of lightning plunged the cafe into half-light, revealing the crowd awakening in fury. "Let them hear us!" Greg bellowed, echoing the charge of warriors about to face battle. "This isn't just about truth, it's about survival." But just as the momentum surged, the lead officer moved, and the air felt charged with danger. A crackle resonated through the room, and surgical precision flickered in his eyes. Mia was losing the thread of control. Would this barrage crest into an explosion or a pandemonium they couldn't manage? Breath caught, she exchanged a desperate glance with the man in the suit. "It is now or never," he murmured, a fierce resolve heating his tone. "And you have no idea what the truth can unleash." Rain battered the windows harder, clashing against the freedom they so desperately sought. Did they have what it took to challenge the beast? Mia felt a strange resolve gathering within her, but it coiled tightly, waiting for the moment to spring. Did truth come with consequences she wasn't prepared for? The air around them buzzed with unthinkable possibilities. The storm roiled on, threatening to swallow them whole, and just when it seemed everyone would take a stand, a blaring horn cut through and the sound of sirens blared in the distance, loud, ominous, signaling something darker on the horizon. "What now?" Faye shouted, eyes widening in panic. The fog of uncertainty thickened around them, leaving everyone frantically searching for an answer. But what lay ahead? More darkness or a revelation? As the storm raged outside, another question loomed. Who would bear witness to the truth now? The swirling chaos in the cafe crescendoed as sirens wailed closer, their alien shrieks cutting through the air like electric knives. Mia's heart pounded against her ribs as she scanned the crowd. Fear hung heavy around them, but glimmers of defiance sparked like fireflies in the night. "Mia!" Greg shouted, extending his hand toward her. "We can't back down now. They need to know we'll stand together." His voice rang with conviction, igniting something deep inside her, a flicker of hope amid the tempest. "Listen," Melissa cried once again, desperation piercing her tone. "We need to get out of here, or they're going to take us all in. Please think." "Think," Mia countered sharply. "Look at the fear they want us to feel. This is our chance to stand up, to be heard." The energy pulsed through her veins, making her limbs tremble with urgency. The lead officer stepped forward with menacing resolve. "This is your last warning. Disperse or we will take control. I will not hesitate to act." His gaze flicked between the group, assessing the threat level with cold calculation. The murmur of dissent rippled through the crowd like wind stirring the leaves of a restless forest. It was Greg's call that broke through the murmurs. "They can't silence all of us. We have rights. Stand with us." Mia's heart swelled at the sight of faces around her, emboldened and ready to face the storm. They had been powerless for too long, but now, empowered by shared conviction, they could manifest change. "Fight!" Someone shouted from the back, a simple yet mighty word. Before she could process what happened next, the cafe door swung wide, and two uniformed officers entered. The room seemed to shrink as the newcomers radiated authority and aggression. The air throbbed, a quiver of dread creeping back into Mia's chest. "Move aside," one of the newcomers barked as he focused on the mass of bodies standing defiantly in the cafe. "You are obstructing lawful enforcement. Back away now." Mia could see it in their eyes, the uncertainty. The fear mingled with courage, and she felt a new surge within her. If they back down now, they'd lose everything they had fought for. "We want to yield," she shouted, her words exploding into the thick tension, buoying hope that threatened to flicker out. "Last chance," the lead officer warned again, raising his baton, ready to bring order to the growing storm. In the ensuing silence, a single voice broke through, a tremor of vulnerability rippling through the crowd. "We just want to be heard." It was an elderly woman, her face lined with threads of wisdom and pain. The crowd shuffled, their hearts swaying in agreement. "You will hear us," Mia declared, stepping forward, fueled by the fire she felt burning in her chest. "We are not just a flash in the pan to be tossed aside. We are members of this community, deserving of respect and justice. The deputies exchanged glances of uncertainty, the air thickening with tension and anticipation. A moment hung in delicate balance, ready to tip either toward peace or violence. Suddenly, though, a loud crash interrupted the charged silence. Something shattered, a table perhaps? Mia turned, her heart racing. Before she could make sense of it, chaos erupted as a wave of bodies surged forward, clamoring for space, freedom, and truth. The officers struggled to maintain control. "Now, we can't give up," Greg bellowed, his voice rallying strength amid the turbulence. But before Mia could join the chorus of defiance, the lights flickered and dimmed ominously, plunging the cafe into shadows. Panic set in as the sirens blared louder, drowning out the sounds of determination. "What is happening?" Faye cried, looking around wildly. Mia felt a prickling at the back of her neck. An electric thrill coiled in the air around them. Were they moments away from chaos? Just then, a muffled thud echoed from the back room, sending a fresh wave of anxiety rippling through the crowd. The patrons looked toward the source of the sound, wide-eyed. What lay beyond the curtain? What revelation awaited them? Questions swirled, each cut sharper than the last. Would they survive the storm? Or would it consume their quest for truth? The air felt charged, filled with furious tension, and Mia felt as if they were standing on the edge of a cliff, peering into the unknown. What secrets lurked just beyond their grasp? The air crackled with anticipation as the cafe succumbed to chaos. Mia took a shaky breath, feeling the world sway around her. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within, and she held onto her resolve like a lifeline. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting to shatter this cycle. We matter. Her voice rang out, cutting through the noise, and for a moment, the din quieted. Lightning flashed again, illuminating every face, revealing a kaleidoscope of emotions: fear, anger, hope. Mia's heart raced, each heartbeat echoing the pulse of the crowd. They stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to confront the storm. "We won't be silenced anymore," she declared, her breath catching as she felt Faye's hand gripping hers tightly. The lead officer's face twisted with frustration as he assessed the scene before him. "You're obstructing justice. Move aside or we will take action." But Mia felt the tide of solidarity rising, propelling her forward like a wave. Justice isn't about suppressing voices. It's about listening. The man in the suit stepped forward again, lifting the file high in a defiant gesture. "This man here," he pointed at Greg, who looked more frightened than defiant now, "has been part of a system designed to keep people quiet. We won't tolerate lies and corruption any longer." With every word, the fear stowed deep in Mia's chest started to ebb away, replaced by a fierce flame. "What are you going to do?" Greg challenged, his voice weak. "You think you can intimidate us? Throwing empty threats?" The shift was palpable. Patrons exchanged nervous glances but began to rally around Mia, their silent agreement bolstered by her courage. "Enough!" shouted the lead officer, and in that instant, a cold wave of fear swept through the crowd. Would this clash turn physical? Mia felt the knot in her stomach tightening again, and she caught Marcus's eye. His face gleamed with anxiety, urging her to reconsider. But blood surged in her ears, drowning out all doubts. "Together!" she shouted, a war cry that surged through the cafe like a charge. "We stand as one. They can't divide us any longer." The chants began again, building momentum, echoing off walls as patrons joined in fervent unison. Just then, a loud crash came from the back room as if a dam had broken. All heads turned. The whispers of trepidation surrounded them like a thick fog. A flash of movement darted behind the curtain, finally parting to reveal Melissa, breathless and frantic. "We need to get out now. They're calling for reinforcements. This is escalating." Suddenly, the doors swung wide open, revealing officers, ready for confrontation. "You're all under arrest for obstructing justice," they shouted, advancing with authority. Panic surged in Mia's chest. This was the moment she had feared, the point of no return. But could a movement be stopped so easily? Without hesitation, Mia raised her voice one last time, cutting through the fear. "We are not criminals. We are the heartbeat of this community. We have the right to stand for what is true." With one massive pulse, the crowd surged, an unstoppable force of resilience. "Truth. Justice," they chanted. A heat of determination engulfed them, slicing through the impending storm. The officers moved forward, but the sheer energy of the crowd pushed back harder, every face lit with the conviction to be heard as the chaos continued. The back door swung open once again, and this time an unexpected ally stepped in. Harold, the owner of the cafe. He had seen everything unfold from the sidelines. A mix of regret and understanding etched in his features. "Stop!" he shouted. "I can't let this continue. Mia's right. We either stand together as a community, or we let fear divide us once again." The clash within the cafe felt electric. The air charged as he faced both the crowd and the officers. An unexpected silence momentarily spread, curiosity bubbling amidst turmoil. It was a recognition that pierced through the tension. Harold held up his hands. "I cannot apologize enough for allowing this to happen within my establishment. This is not who we are. You all deserve respect and transparency." Mia's heart soared with hope. The momentum shifted. Her voice weaving through the small crowd gained strength. "Together we can end this toxic cycle. We deserve better." The crowd erupted into a wave of agreement, a chorus of unified hope sweeping through. The officers faltered, glancing at each other, clearly shaken by the intensity before them. Would they still press charges against a community standing firm together? "Do your jobs but understand," Harold continued. "We will not tolerate hatred and division anymore. Not here. Not ever." Determination shimmered through the space, and the deputies exchanged a meaningful glance. In that moment, a profound silence enveloped the cafe, and even the storm outside seemed to pause. Mia could hardly believe it. Was this truth finally resonating through? Would it guide their way forward? As the chaos moved from confrontation toward conversation, Mia felt a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe they could all emerge on the other side transformed, united. Only time would tell what consequences would ripple from this day, but no longer were they merely fighting for their town. They were fighting for each other. As the first drops of rain began to fall outside, Mia stood tall, ready to embrace the storm head-on, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. And just like that, a new dawn was beginning. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic ending.